English. Anyways, um, so today's aerodynamics 3. This is like the last aerodynamics lecture, and then we just go into structures. Originally what I had planned was this lecture on Monday, and then what today's lecture was going to be is like I know some of you use your own like you guys build your own planes. So originally today's lecture was going to be like okay, teaching you guys what type of wings to use for a specific reason, such and so forth. But instead, what I'm going to do is I want to finish like all of the sub teams. I'm just going to make like one big lecture that compiles, okay, this is a motor you want to use for this reason. This is a wing you want to use for this reason. This is a control service, so on and so forth. Um, Next week is Boeing week. So there's no meetings. You guys should all go to Boeing. You guys should really go to Boeing. I really can't emphasize that enough. I sent in the group chat, I think yesterday, I think, um, the resume workshop that we had over the summer. Look at it. Beef up your resume. Some of you guys have projects. I know a few people here built a plane, right? Or planes, multiple of them, and they don't have it on their LinkedIn, or they just don't have anything that they do on their LinkedIn. Do that. Because especially when you go like the career fair or you go to GMIS or you go to Boeing Week, later in the school year, GE Aerospace is gonna come here as well. When you meet the people who come here from those companies, add them on LinkedIn, talk to them. They want to talk to you, right? Angel has been talking to David from yeah, since last Boeing Week. So you guys like talk to these people. These are people who are interested in what you're doing academically, and they'd like to maybe hopefully pull you into their company. So beef up your resumes, beef up your LinkedIn, do whatever you have to. And then one thing for Boeing Week, I want to know if you guys would be okay if every time I said if it's not Boeing, you guys would say I'm not going. You know?
It's not going, I'm not going.
Yeah. It's like a slogan from from the 70s. So if I say it's not Boeing, you guys would say,
Not going.
no, I'm not going. That is not going. Don't say that. Please don't say that. Because last time Boeing came here, there was like some lady who kept asking about every air accident that Boeing had. Were you there for that? It was in the spring, Boeing Day in the spring. She kept asking every single incident.
Oh, was it that girl? It's like that girl.
She was like, yeah. Oh, what questions were those? Whatever. Yeah, so today's lecture is also pretty short, but the code is long. So since it's the last lecture of aerodynamics, this is like the last concept. You guys can really go. You guys can go on for 12, and then you guys just build off, reading what if you guys want Raymer or the Angel has or whatever, aeronautics book you guys. So yeah. Why is this not working? Oh, it is. Okay. So last Friday we had XFLR 5. I got a few questions from that. My XFLR 5 wasn't working. It's still not working. I don't know why. But basically with XFLR 5, each analysis is the same. You just input what you want to do, whether it be a 2D airfoil or a 3D air or a 3D model of a plane or a wing. Then you define the analysis that you want for it. So specifically what speeds you'd be going at, the Reynolds numbers or speed Reynolds numbers or the angle of attack, and you change that. And then you'd get the final lift, drag, and stability curves. And the XFLR5 can also calculate the experimental coefficients, like the lift coefficient and the drag coefficient, through its own software. Um, it's a calculator, so whatever you put into it, it will input back. It's not to say that what you put into it's going to be inaccurate. It's going to give you an inaccurate thing. You're just putting stuff into it wrong, right? Because that's not calculation. Yeah.
Well,
This contra is propellers. This is aerodynamics. You can put a propeller mount onto XFR5. You can't model a propeller. You can model the propeller blades on XFR. You can't model like the spinning, like the motor and propeller on XFR. Yeah, all right. So dynamic lift. There's two types of lift. Until now, we've been talking about only static lifts. Dynamic lift is an extra lift force that acts on the object when it's in motion. So if you look at CL, now include the formula for lift. The lift formula has the CL coefficient, and that also includes the CL coefficient itself, includes angle of attack, but it also includes the rate of change of angle of attack. So planes, as they start pitching up, will generate an extra lift force as they start pitching up. And that lift force is called the dynamic. Another way you can think of this, it's have you guys ever like seen a baseball game and you see how like the pitcher just throws the ball like a curveball and it starts spinning, but the curveball literally curves, right? That's because as it's spinning, it's moving, air is moving around it. There's something similar to dynamic that's being affected on that ball, but giving it that curve. And you also see this with birds, because birds, as they flap their wings, they're changing their angle of attack of the, if you think of their wings as an airfoil, right? That's also generating lift, another lift. So that's what dynamic lift is. And then static stability. So there's two types of stability. One is static stability, the other is dynamic stability. Static stability refers to an object, how much an object, a plane, an airfoil wants to return to equilibrium immediately after something has disturbed it. So if you're entering into like a turbulent area, storms, clouds, right? And your plane starts shaking violently. If the plane will return to equilibrium, then it's said that that plane is positively stable, or that object, or whatever it is a positively stable thing. Now let's imagine the same situation, but the plane remains on where it was, right? It remains on where it was disturbed. So something hit it, it starts pitching up, the plane stays pitching. Then that's considered neutral, neutral static stability. And then the last type of static stability is negative static stability. And what that refers to is that let's imagine it's a clear day, clear skies, nothing can affect the plane. Plane starts moving on its own. It has other factors affecting it that are just causing it to be like the way that you positioned all of the aerodynamic uh, systems is causing it to not return to where it was. And it's very dangerous for pilots to fly with negative stability because they can lose control of their plane very easily.
So that means
Aerodynamic effects, but that's kind of included. Yeah, that's why we need contra to like reduce torque that's being.
like in kind of implicit as
Yeah. So I've attached like three different planes here. This is a Cessna 172. It has positive stability. So similar to gliders, if something disrupts it, it will return to its equilibrium state. Second plane is a Nighthawk that you have here. Nighthawks are neutral stability. They're used for stealth, right? Does anyone want to guess what this F-16, what type of stability it has? Negative. So what happens with fighter jets is that because they have negative static stability, their flight computers will be correcting like they will be correcting their control so that the pilot doesn't lose control of the plane. That negative stability is imagine a plane is just here and it just starts going wherever. So they have fly-by-line computers. Computers will correct the flight to make sure that the pilot still has control of the plane. Then dynamic stability and stability. Static stability was in that instant. Dynamic stability refers to what happens after that instant. So you can say after the object was disturbed, will it return to its equilibrium over time, or will it return, or will it start to lose control little by little? And then here I've attached like some graphs of what it shows, like over time. Yeah. So these are just like some case studies to look at for planes. You guys should like look into some planes before Boeing Week. I think it might be nice because it will give you like talking points to actually talk to the engineers here at Boeing. You know, 'cause they work, most of the people who are coming in work in flight tests. They're the people in Seattle who test the experimental planes. So they move the CG of the plane back and forward to actually see how it would affect the stability of the plane, both dynamic and static stability. So this is a Red Bull plane. Red Bull, all of like acrobatic planes have a symmetrical airfoil, which means that their lift is completely dependent on their angle of attack. right? So they have their engine as it starts pitching up, also helps take the plane off the ground. It has neutral to negative stability, and it only produces the positive angle of attacks. At zero, there would be no lift. And yeah, so dynamic lift is dominating, and that gives it more maneuverability. The second plane, yeah, also generating. Okay. Understand.
Normal.
Question. Yeah. Roll, yeah.
Imagine that.
It's good to do with the thrust. Remember four
Wait, wait.
courses. Lifts, right, directly up from the airfoils. Then you have thrust, which comes from the engine itself, the SL. Sorry, so I had a
Yeah,
question.
I don't have that. Guess I would guess
Actually, you learned that in dynamics.
we learned.
Yeah, that's tangential acceleration and no radial and theta acceleration. Props. Thank you, props.
Basically what I'm saying is
Sure, I will get back to that. Okay, so the second plane is the Concorde. Concorde was really popular from the 1980s up until 2000. It's the only supersonic commercial jet, the only supersonic commercial plane to ever fly. The reason why it doesn't fly anymore is an accident in France. That's not important. That wasn't the Concorde's fault. But what made it very unique to other commercial planes is that it has a delta wing design. So yes, but it's not the Concorde's fault. It's hence. Yes. So what happened was that in Charles de Gaulle Airport, France, Paris, right? There was a plane taking off right before the Concorde. That was a death trap. It's the DC-10. I personally, I don't know about you guys. Um, but a part of the DC-10 fell on the fell on the runway just as the Concorde was taking off. And the Concorde uses rocket engines to actually propel itself because it's going at twice the speed of sound. So what happened was that that bottom part of the DC-10 that was on the runway as the Concorde was taking off, the Concorde needs a lot of runway to take off because it's designed for supersonic speed. It's not designed for low speed. So at low speeds, it's actually generating a lot of drag because of its delta wing design. But as it was taking off, the part of the DC-10 that was on the runway broke all of the bottom part of the run of the Concorde, leading to its fuel leaking and then catching on fire. And then it just so happened a few meters away from the runway, there was a hotel, and the Concorde rammed straight into a hotel. Yes, then because the Concorde was a supersonic plane traveling at twice the speed of sound, you could see the curvature of Earth when you were at cruising speed. What that means is that because you're going at faster speeds, you have so much pressure on the cabin itself that the windows of the Concorde and the Concorde itself was very small because the faster you go, the more pressure you have. So in order to have like structural stability, because windows are like structural weak points on planes, the windows had to be very small, no longer than the palm of your hands. It was a wonderful plane, and they just recently ignore like what happened in France in the hotel. You can ignore that completely. But they lift the ban after it crashed into a hotel. The U.S. and many other countries put a ban on supersonic flights, but they ended that ban. So we might have supersonic flights soon. And United is funding, supersonic jets. So we'll see. Maybe sometime, not in like 10 years or 20, maybe like 30. We'll see supersonic jets, and all of you might have a job. We'll see. We'll see though. But anyways, yeah, so delta wings because they're made for faster speeds. You also see delta wings on the shuttle. At low speeds, delta wings generate a lot of drag. And but at higher Mach speeds, right? Oh, one Mach is just I'll just finish. These are like case studies you guys can do on like planes, just so you guys have some talking points. Look at your own favorite plane. I don't know what y'all's favorite plane is. Um, and I do like these little stuff. That way, when you guys have the Boeing engineers come or GE Aerospace later, I want to say in December, you guys can talk to them also. But the Delta, yeah, okay. And the Concorde, since it was flying at the speed of sound, or twice the speed of 1.6 the speed of sound, the fuel within the Concorde itself was constantly having to move forward and backwards to keep stability. Like by moving the fuel, you would have the center of gravity changing, and that helped with the stability of the engine. I'm saying,
So,
it's just at low speeds in general. It has to do with the vortices that are generated.
oh, so it's not.
At lower speeds, you have like the greater. And actually, no, it's interesting because the delta wings have lift vortices that are only unique to the Concorde. The Concorde has a special type of lift, but I'm not going to talk about that because that's too complicated. You guys can on your own time. That's about math too. Um,
I said, like, typically, so,
no, no, no. There's lift vortices. O sea, que the vortices are generating lift for the plane electrons.
oh,
I know you. Oh, someone said something. Yeah, it's possible now. You volunteer at the airbase. I think you see that. I don't know. And then the last one is the 737 MAX. Ignore everything that you've seen in the news in the last 10 years about this plane. It's super safe now. But are you laughing?
oh,
If it's
okay.
not Boeing, you guys are so silent. That's so sad.
It's a long time ago. I thought. And
Okay. No, it's because what the Boeing 737 MAX was made to compete directly with the Airbus A380. And instead of focusing on some issues, they wanted to push this out into the market quickly. That resulted in computer errors that you may see later. But that's not important. Anyways, it's an updated version of the 737. It was redesigned for ¿Qué? No hablo inglés. It was more efficient for the engines, larger engines that were designed by. There were a few. Not here. There is. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on this. About this when the Zoom isn't recording. Okay, like when the Zoom isn't recording, we could talk about. Okay, anyways, so they had larger engines mounted on them that were more fuel efficient, right? But it changed the aerodynamics, like a lot of people noted. Um, but it had reduced static stability. That also. Anyways, okay. Oh, okay. Let's yeah, this Kahoot's longer because it's just like everything we've done in aerodynamics so far. Yeah, but these are great topics we're usually talking about with Boeing engineers next week. Yeah, within reason.
Last following week, I was the only person to ask about the strikes. It was really cool.
Let me just look up some stuff. I'm just gonna like write this down here. I'm gonna put it on my phone, and that way you guys can like join this. Everyone in the Kahoot, make sure you says that. I'm assuming you guys are. All right. Oh, there's no sound. Yeah, mostly y'all got it. That's pretty good. Okay. Yeah, so remember that as the airplane starts pitching, there's air traveling on the top part of the airfoil. It's having a blunt force on the bottom, right? On a symmetrical airfoil. And then you also have like the Red Bull rings. Maybe they're not generating as much lift, but they compensate for that thrust of the engine. So yeah, like it's not like it's camber. Like on the Concorde, like that. On things. It's like a diamond shape. Whatever. Can't see the question. Give me a second. I get rid of
There's
this.
a new strike.
Oh yeah, okay. It's so drag caused by skin friction. Skin friction is like the rough areas of the plane or rough surfaces on the plane causing drag. It's a type of parasite drag. Drag caused by turbulence at high speeds. This is also not drag caused by turbulence at high speeds is just vague. Drag caused by the blunt shape of the fuselage. That's form drag. I think some of y'all just saw blunt and got happy and clicked it. And the last type of drag is induced drag. It's caused by the wing vortices due to lift. We saw it last time. If you guys look at last presentation, I attached like an FAA document, actually. I want to say to it that goes over that. Oh, stupid. That's bad. Yeah, wingspan over wing area. Great. Yeah, so remember, like this is the example that has to do with like the gliders. The gliders are big, they have a big wing area, they have a very high aspect ratio because their wings are longer and more narrow. But they find it more difficult to turn. They find movement, maneuverability longer than they have with regular Cessna 172 or Skyhawk. Then, yeah, I guess high maneuverability would be like the fighter jets that have very low aspect ratio, that are able to turn very quickly, but they lack, they have a much lower aspect ratio as a result, and they also have low stability as a result. Some even have negative stability. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Um, when they were testing, when they were unveiling, I think it was the 777, someone got into, two engineers got into a discussion about the stability of the 777. One of them got into the cockpit, flew it, and did a barrel roll in Seattle. It was like 1960s on a 777 and landed it.
Yeah, David told me.
That one they were testing, probably wrong about this. I am wrong about this. I want to say it was like the 737 Neo that they had to do a vertical takeoff,
It's just the
which is
funniest
crazy for
thing
the,
to me.
and he's okay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so usually for safety, right, because that's fine, right? On commercial planes, they will have positive static stability. They will always return to equilibrium state. This on commercial planes, that's a redundant feature that you see over and over again. It's, there's been such accidents, right, that lack that. The DC-10, for example. Um, I forget what was the plane that crashed into the Andes, 70s or something. Also, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so for analyzing lift, drag, and stability, we use XFLR 5. I'm trying to see if we can get someone from CFD to come here and teach us how to do ANSYS, because that's a really important industry tool. That ANSYS, it's important in industry tool. ANSYS is an industry tool for doing composite fluid, CFD analysis, right? And then finite element analysis, which is shows you like the structure of so it's a bit of like doing it on ANSYS. Can't do CFD analysis like in depth. Yeah, X ANSYS has everything you can do on X. ANSYS XFLR5 is just faster. ANSYS you'd have to like grab do the CAD sim. Oh, you do the CAD for it. ANSYS is just XFLR5 is just faster. Right. Yeah, so parasite drag, it's all the drag that doesn't contribute to lift. Induced drag is something that's physically pulling back on the plane. But what parasite drag, the three types are form drag depends on the shape that's in motion, right? So we discussed this a while ago with the golf balls and just regular balls. That the shape of the golf ball itself is like a blunt shape when air hits it straight on. So what happens is that by putting those dimples into the golf balls, we're increasing the amount of air that's on the surface of the golf ball itself, generating lift. Skin drag is drag that's formed by rough surfaces on the bodies of planes, like wooden planes, for example, or the Wright brothers plane that was made out of like fabric. And then interference drag is just drag of two airstreams that um, collide at one place. So the airstreams are flying over the wing, and the airstream that's flying over on the side of the fuselage, when they collide, form a type of drag. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah. So it's just like the golf ball opposed to just regular balls. Um, how air flows around it. So Or to throw a marker is generally a blunt shape, cause a lot of drag because it's not an airfoil, which is generating lift because of the pressure. Yes. Friction air mole friction of air molecules on the surface of the plane. That would be closer to skin drag. It's not exactly what skin drag is, but that's the closest thing to that would be skin. So yeah, form drag is just the surface itself is not an aerodynamic surface. That's why it's not. Yeah, so interference drag, it's not to be confused with induced drag. Interference drag is when you have two streams of air from two parts of the plane colliding at one point. They collide, they create this turbulent flow of air. That's what interference drag is. Oh, the formula's up there. You're not just gonna guess. Okay, yeah. So you guessed right. So you did the work. So you guessed wrong. Um, so basically you have the wing area, which is 20 times air density. Air density is velocity, which is 50 velocity. Let's imagine that if velocity double, I'm not gonna say. And then the last thing is the put that into a calculator. You should get 24,500. So closest answer is 25,000 in newtons. Oh, wow. Look at that equation. So if we look at the list equation there, let's imagine we keep say that CL is one, air density is one, area is one, just to keep everything constant. The only thing lifts, we can write it closer to we have Speed doubles, lift will quadruple. Yeah, so this equation is right there, and all of that, the only thing that's not there is drag coefficient. So yeah, if you remember what the seal did out of the angle of attack and the lift coefficient itself of the vertical, there exists a certain point now. That's to say the angle of attack right before the plane begins to stall and falls out of the sky. So on certain planes, you can't directly like just pitch up all the way and have it keeping going up. For that reason, it's false. Induced drag increases with higher speeds. The more air you have, the more induced drag that you have. Parasitic drag decreases with higher speeds. So the issue with the Concorde, the reason why it had to have delta wings was so that at higher speeds it would decrease induced drag. The opposite of the last one. Whatever. This is the last question. Oh, so sad. So a neutrally stable aircraft, aircraft with neutral static stability, will stay at where it was after disturbance. Like it's been disturbed, something hits it, it's disturbed. It will stay at that where, at the way it was disturbed. If it's positively stable, it will return to equilibrium, and if it's negatively stable, it will just go. That's the end. So sad. Toy Dream 1.